Looking back, none of this, by which I mean the founding of Cornerstone by me, would have happened without the tragic accidental death of my father and sister when I was 5. The resultant effects of bereavement, boarding schools and failed universities left me an outlier, so that I did not join the family business, but satisfied my rebellious self by embracing social work. Yet this background enabled me to identify with people with learning disabilities, whose lives in the 1960s and 70s were still heavily influenced by the 1913 Scottish Mental Deficiency Act. Hence, the name Cornerstone, a name I found in a verse from the Bible, "The stone the builders rejected became the cornerstone," resonated hope for me and possibly for my clients. 30 years on, it has proved prophetic for many, as on my departure, Cornerstone has become one of the largest social care agencies in Scotland.
It's a great honour actually for us in RGU to be hosting this event and to be associated with this lecture. Cornerstone, which of course was founded by Nick Baxter in 1980, is a wonderful illustration of social enterprise in action. And I have to say that those of us who have come across it and people who work for it and in it have always been impressed by what it does. Nick Baxter, whom I unfortunately never knew, had links into this university and was clearly a significant entrepreneur, and he has left a legacy in Cornerstone which is very much alive and well, now led by Del Harris, sitting in the front here. We are really, really proud to be associated with this event. It's a great pleasure for us to have this link with Cornerstone, and I hope that this will be the first of many of such lectures, and of course that it will reflect the values that Nick Baxter left behind and which I know will lead Cornerstone to more successes in the future. So it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here this evening. We have obviously a guest lecturer, but I shall allow Rita Marcello, who's the Dean of the Aberdeen Business School, to do that introduction. So all that remains for me to say again is very warm welcome to you all. There will, I think, be refreshments afterwards, and I hope you very much enjoy the lecture. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm going to start by doing the health and safety announcement, so forgive me if I take a minute just to let you know that there are no fire alarms planned for this evening, and should the alarm go off you will hear it without any question, and there's exit doors on our left here, and we'll make our way up to the entrance and the car park and the muster point. And I'll be leading the way and you'll be fine. You'll have seen facilities as we came from H230. The ladies and gents facilities are up there too, should you need to use them. So, having got that out of the way, I'd like to just echo what Ferdinand said about how pleased we are to have been asked to be involved in this event tonight. When first Jodie and Adele spoke to me about it, the notion of a memorial lecture for Nick Baxter I thought was a fabulous thing, and I based that thinking on my friendship with Nick and my awareness of what a significant figure he was in social enterprise in Aberdeen in terms of his contribution to the city and the region, to Cornerstone, to his workforce and all the people who were involved with Cornerstone, but also, and very importantly, obviously for me as Dean of Aberdeen Business School, in terms of the support that he gave to Robert Gordon University and to students of the business school and to colleagues from the Centre of Entrepreneurship at RGU. And he made a contribution in a variety of different ways, both informal and formal. He was himself an alumnus of the business school. He took his MBA with us, and he received an honorary DBA from the university a number of years ago. He demonstrated, as I say, his contribution in various ways. He was always there as a source of advice, connection, guidance. He came and spoke to student groups in our 4th year entrepreneurship studies programme, the courses. He was an inspiration to students. He was hugely engaging with them and thoughtful and reflective, and encouraged debate, discussion and creative thinking. From my perspective, for the school, he was a great support as well. I remember he was one of the very first people who came and spoke to me after I became Dean. So it's lovely to have this lecture. And this is the inaugural lecture. We'll hope that there are many future iterations of it. And so it also gives me great pleasure to move on to welcome our guest, Joe Haigh, tonight. As the inaugural speaker at our inaugural memorial lecture. And as you'll all have seen from the leaflets in front of you, Joe has had a fantastic career, quite outstanding in terms of the number and the scale and the diversity of corporate finance that you've been engaged in. Over 300 companies, which is extraordinary. And I think you'll be a great speaker to start us off on this series, because you have such a variety of entrepreneurship experience, I know, to talk to us about. Equally, Joe's received a variety of different accolades and awards, and they're listed there for you. I was particularly taken by the Women of Achievements Awards, the Non-Executive Director of the Year Award, and the Outperformance Award. Not sure exactly what outperformance is, but I feel it's something we should all aspire to do wherever we can. So welcome, thank you very much, and I won't delay but hand over to Joe.
Thank you very much indeed. There's only one way to go, isn't there? You know, if I'm the inaugural speaker at the inaugural lecture, I will do my very best. And I have to say that I am so honoured to be here today. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm certainly not a social entrepreneur, certainly not in the way that Nick was. And having been and visited 2 of the homes today, I feel so humbled by what he had achieved, which is far in excess of anything I could ever dream of. People tell me I am an inspirational speaker. I certainly never set out to be one, and that's not as I see myself. I see myself as having lots of lucky breaks and being in the right place at the right time. I certainly didn't come from an auspicious background at all, but I certainly had my share of opportunities, and I haven't been afraid to take them. Speaking to people this evening about what I was going to talk about, I mean, my theme was that I don't believe in the word can't. Can't to me is a terrible expression, and everything I believe in is about your glass being overflowing. And certainly the settings that I went to look at today, you know, certainly if the people that I've seen today can achieve things, which they clearly are with the help of Cornerstone, then anybody can do this. And I think it's very much a state of mind. So, Nick, I didn't know you, but if you're watching from somewhere, thank you for all your fantastic work, and it is my privilege and pleasure to be here this evening. So I hope that he would appreciate that I thought I'd start off with a little bit of light refrain. It's a poem. I love poetry, just as I love sort of quotes and what have you, and it's my way of inspiring myself. So this is my hand, so it's by no means perfect, so please forgive the little poetic license and also the need to put my glasses on to read it. So it's about entrepreneurs and the things that we go through. If you can keep your head, or at least that's what the great poet said, then you must be an entrepreneur, or at least have very thinning hair, with mornings that begin at night, and with each day yet another fight. The carol service missed again, the sports day run a sad refrain, that early morning cup of tea, the alarm clock that went off at 3, the endless meetings and pointless calls, the unpaid bills and juggling balls, the staff and clients that sap your strength, that worrying feeling that never ends, the oohs and ahs and maybe nevers, the perhaps and hope-sos as firm as feathers. Why do we do it? You know, we have a choice, that inner feeling, that nagging voice. What drives us on? Can you shed some light? Perhaps it's actually we like the fight. With 3 steps forward and 1 step back, we make some progress and stay on track. We smile, we laugh, it's all a game. We ask for help and we suffer the shame. It's all business, we tell the crowd, and we stand up tall and keep well proud. Man or woman, girl or boy, make your business your life and joy. Have hope, give back, look forward and have fun. Forget about walking and learn to run. Life is short and sharp and sweet and sour, so enjoy each day, each minute, each moment and each hour. Much that happens couldn't matter less. The time is now, so just say less. So, in preparation for this talk, I was thinking, you know, what is it that makes an entrepreneur? You know, I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur, and I'm not quite sure, you know, there is a definition of one. So I think how I describe my life is it's a little bit like sitting on a seesaw with nobody on the other side, you know, and you're down and you should be up really, and it's like, what am I going to do to make it go the other way around? And I think there are people that watch things happen, there are people that make things happen, and there are people that go, what happened then? Now I hope that I'm in the middle there and I do everything I can to make things happen, but it can definitely be very challenging. And as an entrepreneur, we all have highs and lows. But you know, one thing I do think is that you do really appreciate the highs if you have lows. And with those highs, there's definitely come some substantial personal rewards. And that isn't just money, but that is, for me, personal satisfaction and self-fulfillment. And also engaging with the people that I want to help, which in my business I particularly want to help young people who have been told they can't do it. And one of the best things I have ever done in my business is take apprentices who are really being lost in the system. And to tell you that my number 1 fee earner was a scaffolder, that my PA was a checkout girl on Tesco, for me that gives me a great deal of satisfaction. But of course, with highs comes lows, and that means that you have to make personal sacrifices. And those sacrifices for me have sometimes been time spent with my family, time spent with my husband, but I've got into such a place that I think I'm unemployable now. I can basically only work for myself. So being, you know, success isn't for everybody, and it isn't the same for everybody, whether you are Nick or whether you're me, whether you're philanthropic or whether you take a different route, whether you work in a corporate organisation or you work for yourself. And we all have our own agenda, and I think through that agenda there are certain things that are markers of success. And it is those markers that I think make you the person that you are. So as I said, you know, I haven't come from some sort of blue chip family. I was born in a little Yorkshire mill town in a back-to-back house. In fact, the story goes that when I was born, as you were in those days at home, the bed collapsed and it was propped up with the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is my dad say, well, I always thought I was such a clever dick. But I actually came from this family that were also very driven, and my mother, who had trained as a secretary in the 1950s, she took over her father's engineering business, sheet metal engineering as well, so you know, it really wasn't anything very glamorous. And in the 1950s, for a woman to do that from Yorkshire was hugely unusual. And I was asked earlier tonight, you know, who inspires you? And definitely, it was my mum. And my dad, he started a children's clothing business, and so our dinner conversations were always about business and money, or rather in our case, the lack of it. So it was not surprising really that such a start makes you probably entrepreneurial and want to do your own thing. So I said there are landmarks, aren't there? And my landmark seminal moment was that my mother died when I was a teenager, and very shortly afterwards my father's business went bust. He was a victim of the 3-day week, and although we were no means affluent, you know, and this is hardly a third world problem, at 16 you don't really have any markers, and we had to sell our house and move into rented accommodation, and we had to sell possessions, and you know, it isn't the end of the world, but when you're 16 those are the only markers you have. And it has made me who I am, which is very strong and very determined and very focused. And it has actually made me how I behave. Funnily enough, my sister, completely different. And you know, we both went through the same experiences, and yet she got married at 18 and became a hairdresser and had a very comfortable sort of traditional family life. I went completely the other way. Whether that's because I was the oldest, I don't know. But it is those moments that change who you are. So, I also think that you have to be very clear in your personal life and your business life about what values are important to you. And I have got very clear values, and I also think that they need to be in a certain order of priority, things that you would put before anything else. And my number 1 value is be kind. My number 2 value is work hard. My number 3 is stay positive, and my number 4 is have fun. Now these are not traditional values of the corporate finance world, let me tell you. Certainly not be kind, and certainly not have fun. God forbid that we should have a laugh. And as for being kind, my goodness. But it has helped me build a company where we all have these shared beliefs and values, and help me select people who are on the same wavelength as me. And I think it was Harry Potter, if I may say, that said the biggest decision in your life is who you hang around with. And I like to hang around with people that have my values. So I would choose people on culture and fit, qualifications, and I daren't hardly say this in a university, but are less important to me than people who hold those values dear to their heart. My staff range in age from 70 to 17. I have got people with qualifications, and I've equally, as I said, got people without any qualifications. And what I want to do is help those people. And if it was Madeleine Albright who said there's a special place in hell for a woman that doesn't help another woman, I think there are 2 special places in hell for people that won't help somebody less fortunate than themselves. One of my other favourite quotes, because corporate finance is a bit like being on a roller coaster, and perhaps if any of you have seen the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, you may recall this, but I just love it, and it's that if it's not all right at the moment, it will be at the end. And so we're not at the end quite yet, and you know, I have to remind my staff of that every day. So my mother was 40 when she died, and when I got to my 40th birthday, by which time I had 4 children, that was another seminal moment for me. I thought, well, gosh, I'm here, you know, so am I going to live for a bit longer? And what that makes you realise is that the curtain is up. It also, as I've got older, has given me a sense of humour, because I think for years I've taken myself far too seriously, and I do think that this is something that people on the career ladder tend to do. And so, as they say, a funny thing happened to me on the way to work. So I'd like to share with you a few of my funnier stories. So, my day job is I'm a corporate financier, so I help people buy and sell businesses, and as is the nature of that sort of job, you're usually doing a completion meeting later on in the evening. For some reasons, the lawyers are always wanting to complete at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning. I think they must like the pizzas. But anyway, we'd got the central phone on, and a call came through, and they said, oh, there's a call for you, Joe. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's going to be, you know, one of the other side talking about something. So I put it on loudspeaker, and I said, yes, hello, what do you want? And this little voice on the other end of the phone said, Mummy, I don't want to worry you, but the bathroom's on fire. But don't worry, I'm putting it out. Then another deal that we're doing, you know, again, another early morning completion, and I sent a text, and it said, oh, to my husband, "Oh, darling, thank God we've completed. It's all over. Love you loads. See you in bed later." Press send and sent it to my client. He said, "Wow, Joe, you know we've got on, but this is real. Go somewhere." I was at a do, you know, we all go to these sorts of do's. It was a Chamber of Commerce here, and I spoke to somebody earlier from the Chamber of Commerce. It was black tie do. It was at Sheffield, Cutler's Hall, very impressive building. There's all these people around, very few women. And I went up to this guy because I recognised him to make conversation, say hello, lovely to see you again. You know, I hope you're having a good evening. And then I thought, I can't remember his bloody name. So I said, "I'm really sorry, I can't remember your name." He said, "Oh, it's all right. It's William Haigh. I'm the Foreign Secretary." Parked my car last week, rushing to a meeting, threw the ticket in the back of the car and dashed out. Handbag, looked quickly, level 5, right, went to the meeting, hours later, came back, car's gone. Oh my God, where's the car? Somebody's stolen the car. My passport's in here, because I'm going on holiday next couple of days. It's in my briefcase in the back of the car. Went down to talk to the people who were organising the sort of the tickets at the checkout, and I said, "Somebody's stolen my car." And he went, "Yes, dear." No, I went, no, they have. It's gone. Parked it on level 5. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. I parked it on level 5. And he said, "Well, I tell you what we'll do, love. We'll just go and have a little walk around," talking to me like I'm stupid. So I said, "Okay, then we'll go and have a look round." I said, "But I'm telling you, I know exactly where I parked it." Anyway, wandering up, and he said, "We won't go the stairs, we'll actually walk round." And I'm wandering up and thinking, this is a bit odd. Every level is level 5. Realising it was the parking speed limit. Of course, there was the car on level 3. It isn't always me, though, that makes these errors. When I started my business 25 years ago, this coming October, I had no money, and I needed to engage with my public, and this is obviously way, way before we had Twitter and LinkedIn and everything else. Had no money, so I actually spoke to Huddersfield University, where my business was started, and I said, "Look, can I ask your marketing people, undergraduates, to help me put together a program, like an internship?" And they said, "Oh yes, I'm sure we'd love to." So I gave them this brief, and it was to engage with high net worths who were going to look at some of my business opportunities. Now, at the time, it was just me, so I had no time to supervise this. Of course, we were going to mail all this out. So I'd given them the brief, and I said, "Look, just get on with it. You know, you're third year undergrads, I'm sure you know where you're going." Anyway, what they sent out was, "Dear rich bastard." Actually, I got loads and loads of replies. Perhaps wasn't quite what we would hope would be the most appropriate. And finally, you know, this is happening all the time. I usually wear quite high heels. Tonight I actually got quite low heels on because I managed to fall down some steps carrying a load of books after my last book launch was a few weeks ago, and I had some very high shoes on. Although my daughter said, "Mummy, it's nothing to do with the shoes, it's that you drank a whole bottle of Prosecco." But that might have added to it, obviously. But anyway, I generally like to wear high shoes, and but I can't drive in them, so I always take them off. So I'm getting in the car and I'm setting off to Birmingham, so it's a very early start. I had to be in Birmingham for a meeting at 8 o'clock, so I'd set off from home at about 5:30. Anyway, getting near the venue, I'm thinking, right, okay, I'm looking, where's my briefcase? And I'm thinking, where are my shoes? Where are the shoes? I'm, travelling to Birmingham, believe me, you spend a lot of time in traffic on the M42. Where are my shoes? Oh my God, where are my shoes? So I rang my husband up and I said, Mike, can you just look out of the window and see if there's anything at all in the drive? And he went, okay. 2 minutes later he came back and said, yeah, there's a pair of shoes. And that's where they were. In fact, going to this negotiation meeting in my bare feet. I mean, now, with a few grey hairs, because clearly I'm not blonde, it doesn't bother me. You have to laugh at yourself, don't you? And I haven't done too bad, you know. I have been fortunate to win a few awards, and thank you very much for mentioning them. And I've actually just been named in the finals of the CBI Woman of the Year Award, so that's in June, so keep your fingers crossed. I'm also quite proud. I've written quite a few books, particularly as I'm dyslexic, and I studied law at Leeds University, and on my first essay, they sent it back and they said, "Why are you at university if you can't spell Magna Carta," which I spelled with an ER. And so I'm quite proud I've written 5 books, although thank God for spell check. I'm also really proud, and it's nothing compared to what Nick's done, but it's something I've always wanted to do. I've opened a community art gallery in my hometown, and I only show art from people who are under 25. They've got to be from Yorkshire, and I absolutely have loved doing that. And it's been so engaging with my staff, who've really found that something completely different to, you know, knocking on doors and trying to get people to buy businesses. I've also met some amazing people doing it. I think I'm most proud though of my children. I've got 4 wonderful children who are very balanced and very sensible. They've all got an amazing job. My son works in the intelligence service, so he won't tell me what he does because he said he'd have to kill me. My other daughter works for Merlin. She works with all these wonderful animals. She's just got 12 penguins at her Birmingham site. She worked in Oban at the Seal Sanctuary here. My other daughter is a journalist, and my eldest daughter is a lawyer. So I'm very proud of them, indeed. And I think that is my proudest achievement, that I've got 4 very well-balanced children. Particularly as I have not been there for them as much as I might like to have been. So, being in business, it's not always easy, and I think there are lots of people out there who want to copy you, and I've always believed in what Oscar Wilde said, that you may as well be yourself because everybody else has been taken. And I am very much about being authentic. It's one of the things that is very important to me. As I said, I also think it's important to believe that you can do something, and I've never believed that I can't. I often haven't, which has been a bit of a shock actually, but you know, at least I've had a go. And Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. So I've got another poem for you, sadly not in my own hand, but this is called Can't. Can't is the worst word that's written or spoken, doing more harm than slander and lies. And on it many a strong spirit broken, and with it many a good purpose dies. It springs from the lips of the thoughtless each morning, and robs us of courage we need through the day. It rings in our ears like a timely sent warning, and laughs when we falter and fall by the way. Can't is the father of feeble endeavour, the parent of terror and half-hearted work. It weakens the efforts of artisans clever, and makes the toiler an indolent shirk. It poisons the soul of the man with a vision. It stifles in infancy many a plan. It greets honest toiling with open derision, and mocks at the hopes of the dreams of a man. Can't is the word that none should speak without blushing. To utter it would be a symbol of shame. Ambition and courage it daily is crushing. It blights a man's purpose and shortens its aim. Despise it with all of your hatred or error. Refuse its lodgment it seeks in your brain. Arm against it as a creature of terror, and all that you dream and some day shall gain. Can't is the word that is the foe of ambition, an embassy ambush to shatter your will. It's praise forever the man with a mission, and bows but to courage and patience and skill. Hate it with hatred that's deep and undying, for once it is welcomed will break any man. Whatever the goal you are seeking, keep trying, and answer this demon by saying, I can. So, success in my world is never final, and failure is never fatal. So watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions, and watch your actions because they become your habits. And watch your habits because they become your character, and watch your character because it becomes your destiny. And no matter what you feel and how you feel, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I'm Edel Harris, the Chief Executive of Cornerstone, and if I could add my welcome to you all for coming along this evening, and a huge thank you to Joe. I was only given one job tonight, apart from this one, which was to give Joe the 5-minute warning, and I sat down and realised I didn't have a watch. So you did very well, because I didn't need to perform my duty. I love how you ended, really, talking about the word can't, because there's lots of things and lots of words that you could use to sum up Cornerstone, but our aim is to enable the people that we support to enjoy a valued life. And absolutely, you know, if you're living with a disability or some other support needs, you know, we encourage people really not to see that word can't in their vocabulary and in how they live their lives. So it was very appropriate. So we have 10 minutes to really fire some questions or maybe some comments at Joe. So would anybody like to ask the first question? Steve?
You said that success is never final. Does that not lead the risk that you're forever chasing your tail and never satisfied? Is there a place where at some point you will be satisfied and sit down with a gin and tonic and say, phew, that's it, happy?
I have a gin and tonic. It's just that for me, like retirement, I can't see how I'll ever retire. And success isn't about, particularly, I've never chased after financial goals. And I think sometimes if you do chase after financial goals, you're going to not succeed. My art gallery, which I never ever set up to achieve anything other than this was a personal thing, has actually achieved massive publicity for me. It's engaged my staff. It was never something that I thought would bring all sorts of other rewards, but it has. So it's not that success, I don't think there is a limit to success. I think it's a series of successes. There isn't a top. Not that something's better than the other. It's just that you can always do something else. For me. Yes.
You mentioned the number of deals that you've been involved with. Is there one thing you think it prevents deals happening that or prevents other people?
Is there anybody from the bank here? Because I always say the thing that prevents anything happening is there's no money. But what we are is very creative. What we have to be is very creative. I think self-belief is the only limiting factor. And you know, that I did speak about can't before I'd been to see the sites now, because I so believe that if you believe you can, why shouldn't you be able to do things? So, not everything happens as quickly as you want. Not everything happens the same way that you want, and sometimes for valid reasons. But usually, I think it was Winston Churchill that said, we just keep buggering on, don't we?
Jodie?
Hi, thanks for that, Joe. You spoke about your success being based on being in the right place at the right time, and I wonder if you could tell me a time where you were in the wrong place at the wrong time and how you got your career back on track.
How I got my career back? Oh my goodness, I would think that 1% of my success is represented by 99% of failures. So many things have gone wrong. I've chosen the wrong staff, I've made the wrong deal, I haven't, bought properties when I should have bought it, I've rented for years. Loads of things have gone wrong. And it always surprises me when it goes wrong, because I think, how did that happen? I never expected it to go wrong. But I think I wake up every day really positive. Because, obviously we all have bad days, don't we? But generally, I am just a positive person. And I think you owe that to your staff as well. Because I know if I come in as glum as anything, they're going to be pretty miserable. And, that doesn't mean to say I don't go into the loo and have a quick pep talk with myself and then have a gin and tonic at night. Absolutely do that. One of the best things I've ever done in my whole career is have a mentor. And I've had a mentor throughout my whole career. Different ones. Some paid, not some paid. And it's to him or her that I can say, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get through it. Sometimes you have to be able to say that, but I just think you keep going. I'm like the Duracell bunny.
Thank you, that was very inspirational and many lessons, and your point about failure and carrying on and learning from that's very helpful to hear. But one of the things I wanted to particularly mention, you listed some of your values, and the first one you said was kindness, which I find very inspiring and very positive. And as you said, it's not always a value that's at the top of other business people's agenda, and I wonder how much you feel you've been able to help other people realise that you can be kind as well as effective in a business setting.
See, I think that sometimes people misunderstand the word kind and see that being kind doesn't mean being tough, doesn't mean being fair, and they think that kind is about being soft. It actually isn't, in my opinion, at all. It's about being honest in the right way. And I think that this is what I've tried to engender with my staff, in that's why I said that my values have an order. And we will put being kind above working hard. And when we interview people, we ask them what they think about that. And these are where I've made mistakes, because you soon find out who's paying lip service to that, and then you see them in action. But once people working in an environment where being kind is the most important thing, it just becomes more natural. You wouldn't think not to be kind. You wouldn't think there was any other way of working, because it's how we all operate. Not soft, not tough, but we're generous with our time, with what we have, we share it. So it becomes just normal.
Just picking up on some of the points you made, I'm interested sometimes in how entrepreneurs are seen by the rest of the population. You talked about mentors. A lot of people look for role models, and often the role models for young people are those who are in relatively safe environments, who are in professions, in big organizations. Entrepreneurs often aren't the role models, except for one or two very high-profile names who come up in conversation. What do you think is the significance of this? Do you think it's important that we should identify people with an entrepreneurial spirit as role models, particularly for young people?
I think being an entrepreneur can be a bit scary. So, I describe my life as a bit on a seesaw, where it's, sometimes you can be in a much more comfortable role in a professional setting or in a big corporate organisation where you've got a certain amount of fire guards around you. In my world, there has been many a month where I haven't been able to pay myself anything, and I've had to remortgage my house to pay salaries, and you've thought, oh my God, how are we going to get through this month? And that is not for everybody, but it's a hell of a ride. I think you can teach, and it's young people that I'm very interested in understanding, helping. And quite frankly, if you're younger, you haven't got as much to lose. It's much harder to start to be an entrepreneur at 50. It's easy to be an entrepreneur at 20 because you've nothing to lose. So I would say that you should encourage your undergraduates to have a go. What's the worst that can happen? Well, they can fail. Well, I'd rather have on my gravestone, at least you had a go. Because we tend to regret the things we don't do rather than the things we do. Certainly, that's my experience. But it's finding, the trouble with entrepreneurs is we've never any time. Though, people say to me, Jo, you write books, you speak at events, you sell companies, do 80-odd speaking events. How do you do it all? Well, I think you make time to do what you want to do. That's why I always have my nails done and I never go to the gym.
That leads nicely into my question, talking about nails and things. You're up for an award in June for the Businesswoman of the Year, was that the right?
CBI.
Yes, CBI award. So I guess it's really a reflection on being a woman in business because, there's a lot of talk about quotas for boards and if only there were more women, making these decisions, the world would be a better place, etc., etc. And I just wondered if you could reflect just briefly on being a woman in business and whether you actually think that the gender issue has any bearing on what you've achieved or not achieved.
I've yet to meet a woman who thinks that quotas are the way to go. I have never met or spoken to a single woman who believes that. I think we want to be there for our merits. Actually, I have never found being a woman a disadvantage. I have always found it an advantage. People look at me and they think, well, she's blonde and she's from Yorkshire, so she must be thick. Of course, I know I'm not blonde. I think actually being a woman can work to your advantage. I think where it works to your disadvantage is if you try to be a man or try to be something you're not, which is the Oscar Wilde quote, to be yourself. Be confident in your person. And yeah, of course, there's definitely been times where, potentially I could have seen it as harassment or discrimination, but I think, oh well, I'll do it Frank Sinatra and do it my way. And just move on. I haven't got time to hang around with that. You just have to make it yourself.
2 minutes. Somebody has got a watch. That was good. Any final questions?
You clearly put a lot of merits on the family and from where you come from in Yorkshire. Do you think that has developed your character and the strength of your character with the traditional Yorkshire grit?
Well, they say there are two kinds of people, those from Yorkshire and those that wish they were from Yorkshire. I realise that I'm probably in a bit of a disadvantaged situation here. But I think, it is true about Yorkshire grit, as I'm sure it is about, other nationalities and their own particular beliefs. But for me, family is the most important. I haven't always put them first, because I haven't always been able to put them first. But they still remain the most important thing to me. But I think it was my mum dying when I was a little girl, and then my dad's business going bust and everything went horribly wrong. It's just made me who I am, which is completely determined and focused. And I just can't do anything else. It is who I am.
Two final questions. Maybe take one there and I'll come back.
Nick was my dad. And the connection of the things that you were saying about family, and he was a real opportunist as well, and he was from Yorkshire.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
It wasn't a question, it was just a point about your last comment there. It was reported in the press at the weekend that the thing most associated with successful entrepreneurship was the death of a parent in childhood.
Was it really? Well, I didn't read that. That's very interesting, thank you.
And there's probably a few people here that don't know that Nick's father and sister died when he was very young, and that was a big part of, I think, his entrepreneurial spirit and why he wanted to make a difference. So, that's interesting.
Yes,
any final questions or comments? You all know there's a buffet and a glass of wine. It falls on me to, first of all, thank Joe, and then, of course, I would like to do a few more thank yous, but if you could join me in thanking our speakers. My first thank you is to you all for coming out this evening and taking your time to join us for this first lecture. We do hope, as part of Nick's legacy, that we can host an annual lecture here at the university in Nick's memory. You'd probably also be interested to know some of the other things that Cornerstone is doing to remember Nick. One of them, just shortly after his death, was that we reproduced this book, which is called Changing Times and Changing Attitudes. And when it was our 30th anniversary, and Nick was still alive, we held an exhibition across Scotland in Aberdeen, Dundee and in Edinburgh at the Scottish Parliament. And it was really looking back at the 30 years of Cornerstone, but also the 30 years of society and society's attitudes to people with a disability. And the book is just a collection of stories from people who lived in the institutions and who are now living in the community, and staff that worked in the long-stay hospitals. So this was one of the things that we wanted to do in Nick's memory, was reproduce the book of stories, but also capture in the middle of the book some thoughts about Nick and the difference that he made to the lives of people with disabilities across the country. And we're also very excited about a new capital project that we have happening in Clydebank in Dumbarton at the moment. It's going to be home to 8 adults with autism and challenging and complex needs, who at the moment are living out of area, most of them actually out of Scotland, because there isn't a facility to house them in a home in their local community in Scotland. So we're very proud that Cornerstone is building this new facility, and it should be open at the end of August, beginning of September this year. And in memory of Nick, we have called it Baxter View. And it has got the most amazing view, hence its name, and we will be very proud to cut the ribbon on that facility and that capital development in September. And I think we could have found something, I'm sure, in Aberdeen that we could have associated Nick's name with, but I think the fact that this development is in the west of Scotland actually is even more important, because Nick's legacy spread obviously much further than just Aberdeen. So just a quick few thank yous. First of all, thank you to Robert Gordon's University for hosting us this evening, and particularly to Rita for all your help in getting us to this point where we managed to have the venue and the speaker and the guests. So we really do appreciate it. And also a huge thank you to Barbara Jones from RGU, who has really helped pull the whole event together. So we really appreciate your help. Thank you to our sponsors, of course, because being a charity, it is very difficult for us to host events such as this because somebody has to pay for them. And so we're really pleased and grateful to have Social Investment Scotland and the support of Alistair, who's sitting at the back there, for tonight's event, and also the support of PwC and Kevin, who is here somewhere. So again, a huge thank you, because we really just couldn't do this without you, so we are very grateful. And thank you to the organisers. I've already mentioned Barbara, but also Katia Britton, who is a volunteer that helped us put the event together, and my colleague Jodie and her team, who've all done their bit to make this happen this evening. So a huge thank you. And if I could just finish, before I've been told I mustn't forget to tell you there's a buffet, and it looks like a fabulous buffet, so please stay for some food and a glass of wine with us after the lecture. But I'd just like to finish by reading a very short extract from the book that I mentioned, and as a close. I was supporting a gentleman who enjoys being the centre of attention. He deserves to be, as he is always polite and often entertains others with his great dancing skills. Whilst I was supporting him, he loved to go to visit different places on holiday, to try out and see new things, and to meet and mix with people. On one occasion, we had a very nice visit to the train museum in York. He was clambering into and over the different engines, speaking to other people around him, and generally having a really good time, until it was time to leave, to head back to the hotel. It was raining. A warm rain, but very heavy. I encouraged him to put up the hood of his jacket, but very out of character for him, he refused to come out of the building, gesturing that it was raining and he was really not very happy. And it suddenly dawned on me that, having spent his whole life living in an institution, that he had probably never been out walking in the rain before. And this was because he had always been shepherded from the house, from the home to the car or to the day centre transport which parked at the front door of the service. So I encouraged him to start walking. It was clear that he was still unhappy, until suddenly he pulled down the hood of his jacket, he turned his face up to the rain, and he started smiling. It dawned on me again that he had never been given the opportunity to walk in the rain before, and this was a new experience for him, and he loved it. The two of us walked back to the hotel, none the worse for being soaked to the skin, but very happy once we dried off and changed into dry clothes. So thank you again very much for coming and joining us this evening, and I'll look forward to speaking to some of you over a glass of wine in just a moment. And again, a huge thank you to Joe and everybody that's helped to put this evening together. Thank you.